adjust my screen and we will start. Okay, tell me please if you can see it now.
Yes.
Okay, so what we're going to discuss now and today, it's a some special library. Yeah, it's just a library for like React applications, especially not only for React applications, but for front end, we can say. And so it is very helpful. So I not will just talk about the documentation and why it is so cool. I will share our experience and why how do we write the code with TanStack query on our projects. Okay, so let's get started. And okay, this is like a brief agenda for our today's meeting. And so what we're going to discuss is where to save backend data, to have some backend cache maybe for that. Why actually do we need a TanStack query and do not use anything else? What does TanStack provides us? What like the list of main features that we can use from the box. Then I'll share a small experience what we have found during the implementation using this library in our project. And then we'll have very small live coding demo. Do not overload the presentation, but just to show small things about the flows. Okay, and then we will have open some window for questions and answers. Okay, so you'll ask me why you want to talk about some library, but there are a lot of different libraries for that. Like why actually this TanStack query? And yes, I've looked for npm to understand how many actually packages do we have for React state management. So as you can see, it's more than 2,000 different packages for React state management. And yeah, it's very impressive, I guess. Okay, so actually we will talk about the TanStack in scope of React, but take into account that it could be used for any framework, Vue, Angular, so no problems here. But I will talk in scope of React because I have the most experience with React and together with React. Okay, so actually you can have a logical question: why do we need this library? Because we already have context, we have reducers, we have states inside, like from the box in React. And why do we need some managers? Yeah, even some backend cache data, I call it like that. And in like below, I put some items why actually it is not so good to use some vanilla hooks and solutions from React, because it's a boilerplate, so you need to repeat it. It is not very scalable. So in case the project is growing, it is not so easy actually to make it scalable, to have a lot of controls with solutions like that. And of course, it's time consuming because you need to write, I guess, something similar with some state flags, some refetching functions, callbacks. And yeah, why do we need to write it? Because in case we can get it just from the library and from some third-party library. Okay, now let's talk especially about this TanStack query and why actually do we need it, and what do we get from the box. And first one thing, it's very simple. So is installation. I just need to add actually one thing to the package.json. I need to install React query. And so additionally, I can install this, as you can see, React query DevTools. And it is very helpful, so we'll discuss it later. But as for now, let it be like that. So no additional changes, just React query, and that's all. And in the code, as you can see, I need to have an instance of query client. So I can import this query client from a library itself. And so I need a provider, and to provide this client to the provider. So very easy. And through the whole application, I'll be able to use these queries, mutations to work with cache, and things like that. Okay, let's move on. And so here is like server data caching on the front end, and how does it work? So it is not very precise, maybe just to your understanding. So let's imagine that I have a first call. I have some API, I have some React query cache. Maybe it's small database. Of course, it's not a database, it's some object, but we can call it like that for better understanding. So imagine that I make first call, I have some response with the data, and I have very important fields, these queries. I have a key, it is very important. I have options like stale time, I have something else, but let's now focus on this stale time. And so what TanStack query will do in this case? Okay, I have this query with to-dos. I have some response, and automatically the data will be put into this React query cache. And stale data will say like how many times this data need to be like alive in this store, in this database or query cache. So let's call it. How do you want? Okay, and now I have another request to this to the same query. I want to call to-dos once again in different components, for example. So now I will check if I have this to-dos in a cache or not. In case I have it, and in case the data is not stale. For example, I called this endpoint, I don't know, 1 minute ago. And now I'm calling it in 5 seconds. I don't know, user open another page and I need this data once again. So data is correct, is not stale, it will be returned automatically, and new call will not be made for the backend. That's very helpful, and it's very basic actually for using this this library for caching and like state management. Okay, so in case you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to interrupt me and we'll discuss.
Yeah, one question. This React query cache, is it on client or on the server?
Yeah, of course, on client.
Okay.
Yeah, that's idea that you can like some cache like representation of your state on the front end, and you don't need to maybe to get to make some extra calls to get the same data from backend. That's why it's very helpful to some performance optimizations and do not make some extra calls. Okay, then let's move on. And here we can see like very basic syntax for queries and mutations. So there are actually two types of this, let's say hooks we can use from a query. First one is a use query. So it's as usual, it's some get queries, but actually you can put everything there. The library doesn't care about your method. How do you want to call it? It could be Axios, fetch, API, I don't know, anything, just simple promise. Okay, so what we definitely need to provide, it's a query key. So it's an array of keys. It could be string numbers, it could be objects, it could be arrays. Actually, could be anything. Also, we have very important next parameter. It's a query function. So just one requirement, this query function should return some promise. And so we have a lot of options to control the query, but we'll discuss it later. Okay, the same for mutations. Mutations are mostly for some post requests, maybe in case we talk in scope of REST endpoints, like classical maybe. And here we have the same mutation function. We have on success callback. We have on error callback. So very simple flow could be just on success update of something to refetch some get query. Okay, now let's move on. And so now we'll talk more about options. How can you customize your queries? Yeah, and here you can see a list of options you can provide to this use query hook. Most important, I like mentioned in the left side, and it's a GC time, which is tail time. So GC time is like some cache time. How long your data will be alive in your database, in your cache, before garbage collector will like delete it, will remove it from the cache, until from the moment it got stale. Like imagine that I closed the page, and from this moment when I don't use anymore, so each query has some state like active, not active, and yeah, this data will be kept for some time, and it's especially this GC time. And stale time we already discussed. It's how many. It's a time during which one I need to like to keep this data like correct. I say, okay, I need just 5 minutes for this query, or I need like it will be infinite. This data will be alive for the whole time, so no concerns. Then very important field like enabled, so we can control if you want to call something or you just don't want to call it. Maybe you don't have a lot of enough parameters. Maybe something required is not ready yet, so we can just off your query and so. Okay, some initial data. You can provide some initial data to show initially, because maybe some placeholders, maybe some, I don't know, just initial data to be displayed right on page load, maybe something like that. Also, I have initial data updated at, so we can also control it and to have this timestamp. Okay, then refetch interval on the background, refetch on mount. So it's very cool options to control how the query will behave. So I can go to another tab, I can go back, it could be refetched. I can refetch something on interval every 1 minute, for example, and so on. Okay, then select. I can select some specific data because React query really works really good with the TypeScript and type narrowing. So your data will, it consumes some generic, so we'll also check it later. And your data will have specific like type you provided. And of course, it could be undefined because it is like getting. But yeah, you can get some specific, select specific some part of your data in case you don't need like the whole object, maybe something like that. Then what we have else, it's a retry callback, retry and mount, retry delay. So in case of fail, I maybe need to retry, like retry 3 times maybe, or try on every mount, or retry every 30 seconds in case of fail or something like that. Okay, and network mode, online, offline. So I can also control it a little bit, how this query will behave in case of internet lost. Yeah, actually briefly that's it. Let's move on. And here mostly the same, but for mutations. So we have the same GC time, we have retry delay. Here we have something new. It's like callback handlers on error, on success, on mutate, on settled. Okay. Then we can control somehow the concurrency and network mode. So mostly the same, but as you can see, mutations has less properties than queries, but because it's for a little bit different needs actually. Okay, then what do you receive from this queries, from these hooks? What TanStack returns us? Okay, in the right side you can see a list of all parameters, and in the left, as usual, list of the most important. And you can see data here. It's error, of course, in case error exists or happened some rejection. Okay, then statuses. It is very helpful and very crucial, I would say. So it could be error, success, pending. You have this helpful flags. The same that is represent the state is error, is success, is pending. You have a stable promise that returns, and you can use it anywhere maybe you need. You have some also helpful constants like failure count, failure reason, error updated count. So also this timestamp I mentioned before, that updated at, error updated at. And yeah, actually it is very helpful in case you work with some refresh flows and you need to update timestamp always. So no need to write this new date to get some local data. So everything will be returned and you don't need to handle it. Okay. The same for mutations. So you have, but it's a little bit different, of course. You have mutate async callbacks. So to use in asynchronously, maybe use with mutate async and just synchronously in some usual flow, and you don't care about some async flows. You just simple mutate. The same, you have data error, could be returned maybe from your post request. You need to consume something that could be returned for you. Okay, no problem. Then you have reset callback. The same statuses, idle, error, success, pending. The same helpful flags, counts, timestamp, and mutation params. So you can actually get it. What did you provide? Maybe you need a URL, I don't know, something else, so you can get these variables from the mutation. Okay. Now let's talk about something else that query client provides. So actually, to be honest, it is less used as I wrote here, but this at the same moment, yeah, it is very important also. And what I'm talking about especially, it's a query cache API. So it is not very generic way actually to get the data, but also a good one. So we can find something in a cache by key. So key is very crucial here. You can find all, you can subscribe, you can even clear. So you have full control of query cache, and it's very easy to work with them. The same for mutation cache, get all, subscribe, clear. Also, there is like some observer, so you can also subscribe, also clear. So maybe you need to do something on some endpoint change. So very helpful, I guess. Okay, use infinite query. So it is a very generic case here to implement some lazy loading and pagination maybe. There is special hook for that. Use infinite query. It has some additional params like get next page param, get previous page param, and mostly it's the same except this extra parameters like fetch next page, fetch previous page. So very nice and nothing to add here, I guess. Okay, use queries. A lot of promises could be handled in parallel in case you really need it. So no problems. Use queries could be helpful for this solution. So the same parameters, of course, for queries, but like it consumes array of queries. So this object with different parameters. Okay, uses fetching. This is very this could be, I don't know, useful in case you need to show some loader, in case some data is fetching. So just you have a key and use this fetching hook. You're getting this status and just showing some skeletons or loaders or anything. Okay, use is mutating. The same in case some I send some post and I need to wait a little bit. Very nice. I have a hook. I don't have a boilerplate, some props drilling. I don't need anything else. I just call use this mutating. I have a key of this post request, let's say, and that's all. Also, there are some hooks to work with suspense. So it is actually the same. So you can read it in documentation, maybe in more details. It's the same like general hooks, like use query, use queries. But there are some difference like in status, because it always will be success, because it will be handled by suspense component from React, and also the same with error boundaries component. So also it will be handled like by these components, and there are some cases when you will need to provide some like to throw these errors deeper. So it is also possible with queries, React query, especially this use suspense query. Okay, also you can get these options like query options, infinite query options, just to get general options of your queries, because you can set up it like globally some general options. Okay, then prefetching. In case you're really sure that you can prefetch a query before the render. Okay, you have use prefetch query, you have use prefetch infinite query. So no problem, just prefetch. And error boundaries, so query error as a boundary component. So we can use it to get some errors in the queries, I guess. Okay, I guess that's briefly it about most important features. Now I want to show you that it's not only for React, so you can read it in the documentation, but it's for, as you can see, for all modern and popular frameworks. And the last thing, I guess, it's a very helpful dev tools. So I shown you before that you can install it like a different package, and you will see this very great picture below on your viewport, like in the bottom, in a viewport, and then click on that, you will see something like that. So it's a screenshot from a real project, from our project, and so you can see that they have some active endpoints like cycles and configurations. I have full control of them. I can refetch and can invalidate it and can erase it, so we can do anything. I can see also some inactive queries that were fetched on some previous page, but maybe they're not active anymore. So, but I see the full picture of my cache state. Okay, maybe you need a link to documentation, so feel free to scan it. But also you can find it in the Google very easy. So TanStack query or React query, and you'll find documentation is really good with examples, with all cases described. So feel free to open and read something if you need. So let me know if I can go on.
I can guess. Yeah.
Okay. What could go wrong? And something must go wrong, actually. So dependent queries. Let's imagine that I have, like in this example, I have some user query. So I'm calling it to get the user. And I have another query to get projects by user ID. And so what I need to use here, it's a user ID. And of course, I can't call this project's query in case user ID is undefined. So that's why this enabled parameter is so important here, because you just get an error in case this parameter is required, or maybe invalid data. And it is like source of a lot of bugs, to be honest, on the real project, because you have a lot of these dependent queries and you need to find some solution for that. So we can start using something like queries in a queries. So as you can see, I have use card here and use user inside because I need this user ID. And everything is very cool except the case when user will be refetched in case I open some user card and it will be some extra refetch. And imagine if user is very complex and time-consuming operation, and so you can easily overload your application. And what we understood and what we started using on our project is the selectors. So very simple thing, nothing very special, but very, very helpful. And we fixed actually a lot of bugs with this solution and actually avoided a lot of bugs. So what we wrote, just use user selector, you can see here, and I use the same use user query, but with enabled false like always. So very easy. Now in a use card, I can use this selector and don't care about some extra calls to some endpoints like user in this case. Okay. How to work with the keys. So as I told you, it could be array of anything, strings, numbers, arrays, objects, so it could be anything. I guess symbols also possible. But what we also understood and what we started writing, it's some like a general key per page or per feature maybe. For example, use card page. So I have use card page like for every queries related to my card page. And finally, what do I need to do to refetch them? Just to provide use card page for query key when I want to refetch some queries. So very helpful and also very easy. Okay, also be very careful with prefetching because prefetching is not doesn't control the enabled state. Like it will be prefetched always, and you need to be precise here because some required parameters could be missed, and in this case it will be double fetched maybe, and first fetch will be with incorrect parameters. So imagine that user ID is undefined in this case. So firstly, I will have a call with user ID undefined, and next one will be with correct parameter. So no need for that at all. And it also could overload with useless calls your application. Okay, I guess briefly that's it. What I wanted to show you. And if you don't mind, we can go to some code live coding.
We have one question in the chat. Maybe you can ask for this question. First one.
Okay, let me find. Can you explain more detail usage of offline mode for queries mutations? Yeah, it works differently with the statuses actually. So in case of offline mode, it will return some maybe pending or not pending or not success. It is different a little bit. Maybe I will not describe you the full details about that because we always use the default mode. It's online, I guess, but it's something different with statuses and how React query will handle this behavior. Especially, it's all about states and maybe retrying and something like that.
Excuse me, I have a short question because all these use queries and use mutations reflects with GraphQL, and GraphQL basically implement client cache and the server cache, but in case of TanStack query, it's only implement client cache.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, it's different architecture. I guess in case of just using some REST endpoints, it is very helpful. But I guess you don't need it with a GraphQL because you already have some schema, and so you can get it is a little bit different, I guess, and not applicable.
May I add something?
Yes, of course.
I think the main confusing part is the name of this library because it called it TanStack or React, whatever, query, and everyone thinks it's for queries and mutations only. But actually, this is more like state management library. It allows you to control many different things, not only REST API, GraphQL API, or any other kind of APIs. You may also, for example, instantiate Google Maps script, for example, and it works very well. And many other similar things. So don't confuse with word query in the name of this library.
Yeah, I guess previously it was just React Query, as somebody wrote in the chat. But then they implemented solution for all frameworks. That's why it's like TanStack is with a little bit different name and for all frameworks. Yeah, maybe do you have some other questions, so we may discuss it right now.
Looks like we can move on.
Okay. So I prepared a very easy project for us, just to check how does it work. So let me know if you can see my Visual Studio Code. Okay. So I have use card query here. It is very easy, so we will not dive very deep into different solutions because it's very time consuming, but just simple flow we'll be able to see. Okay, so as I said, I get some card data. So why do I have a card type here? So in case I go to the query itself, I provided this like a generic with a card. So we understand that it's data with a card type, and of course it could be undefined. And it is different with use suspense queries, because in this case you will have always just data, because like undefined, and this promise handling will be handled by suspense component from React. Okay, also have this loading, fetching states, so I can easily show something here. So, and also I have refetch callback, just to make some refetching of my application. So let me know if you can see this great pictures.
Yes.
Okay, so it's just some dummy data I found to use, so doesn't matter what do you use here. And what we are interested the most, it's network tab. And how does it work? Okay, let's refresh. I have one call. It's simple get call to some dummy data, and have some products here. Okay, I guess no questions here. We just call, have some page render, have a call to this use card, very easy, have that data, and we render this data. Okay, now I want to go to some product. And let's imagine that here I need to get this data, but I don't want to make some extra calls, for example. So I also use the use card here. I have the same parameters, so nothing to add. I'm getting some product ID and product from this card data and displaying it. So now let's see, I go to this smartphone and I see this data. So nothing, no additional calls here. Okay, because my data is like infinite stale. So I now on React Query understands that, okay, your data will be alive forever. It is very, oh, sorry, it is not infinite. I put 5 minutes here. So during the 5 minutes, it will be alive. So its value in milliseconds, let's say maybe just half second. And what I expect here, in half of a second, I will go to the this product card page, and the use card query will be refetched. Why? Because I use it next time here. So let's go and try. And go back. Okay, let's clear first. Okay, I have some first query. Now I go to this page and I have some extra call. Yeah, what I don't really want to. That's what I told you about. And it's some extra calls. It is very bad thing on real projects. And imagine that you have a lot of different things, and you could overload very easy application. So what can we add here? It's just simple selector. So something very easy. I want to use something like that with enabled first, false, sorry. Okay, one more here. Sorry. Yeah, actually I need to get options here. Okay, now let's but of course I can like get options here, but I'm not going to write a TypeScript for them. And I can like spread these options. So now it should work. And what do we want to use? We want to use this selector here instead of a card. Okay, and also I need to export it. So let's check what do we have. We have use card selector, and we import it. Sorry, in the product. Yeah, it's product. Okay, from use card. Oh, actually, we don't need this export, but okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, it will not allow me to work. Okay, now let's do something else because I need to write some TypeScript. It will be Boolean. And I want to say like enable it here. Okay. And use card want this enabled. And let's say it will be enabled true by default. Okay. Okay, now let's refresh. Okay, I'm on the product page. We need to refresh now. Okay, so I have one call. I go to the product, no additional calls. Even I have something like half a second of a stale time here. So briefly, I guess that's it, what I'm going to show you, because we can code for a lot of times, but it's very time consuming, and I guess we are running out of time. So 40 minutes already left. So feel free to ask any questions for this part.
I have
We
one
have
question. Sorry, really short. Is it possible to persist React query cache in the local storage?
I guess, yeah, but you need to stringify it because you can't save the objects in a local storage. But yeah, you can do it. Why not?
Yeah, I just want to know, maybe TanStack have some additional API for this purpose or something like this.
Actually, no, I don't know anything about that, and nothing in documentation about that.
Okay, thank you.
Andrii, can you take a look on the chat? Last one question.
Yes, let go. Let me open
I can answer. There is loading, is fetching, and is pending. is loading means is fetching and is pending, but is fetching will switch from false to true every single time when you perform the query, but is pending switch from false to true and back again only for the first time when you call this hook.
Yeah, actually it's loading only for the first load. And in case you have some data in the cache, its loading will be false forever. But its fetching will be changing every time you refetch the same query with the same keys. Seems like that, if I'm not mistaken.